It's Thursday and we're back talking more professional wrestling. Who would have guessed it? We got John Cena versus Randy Orton coming up in a couple of weeks at Backlash. We might be getting Gunther versus Pat McAfee, of all people. Who would have thunk that after he took out Michael Cole and Pat McAfee on Monday Night Raw? Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and Jimmy Uso are going to be some sort of faction, as Jey Uso is going to be the World Heavyweight Champion. Randy Orton, I think, has an opportunity to hit one of the more shocking and more impressive RKOs in his history in his final match with John Cena in 2025. CM Punk is out for vengeance. Roman Reigns is out for vengeance. Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman, and Braun Breaker are out to become the newest version of what Evolution was back in the mid-2000s. What do you guys want to talk about first? Shocking moments, debates, previews? Let's go with shocking moments. There have been a lot of shocking moments in the WWE since Triple H has took over from Vince McMahon back in, I would say, 2023. I know Vince McMahon had his hands in the ingredients, per se. He had his hands in the sauce for WrestleMania 39. Triple H was in control fully of WrestleMania 40. He was in control fully of WrestleMania 41. We have since Triple H took over, an epic main event in WrestleMania 40 between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. We have seen an epic return of CM Punk at Survivor Series of 2023. We have seen an epic heel turn in the moment of John Cena turning on Cody Rhodes to align himself with the final boss, The Rock. Will that pay out in the long run? We shall see. Time will tell with that one. What I said last night on the episode that there have been 2, maybe 3 moments in the history of watching professional wrestling that have gotten me on my feet screaming up and down like a 4-year-old kid. One of them was John Cena turning heel against Cody Rhodes at Elimination Chamber last month. I was screaming up and down like a 4-year-old. My neighbors were probably thinking, what the hell is going on? John Cena turning heel for the first time in 22 years, the longest separation period for any professional wrestler in the history of the industry. John Cena turned heel in what many assumed would never, ever, ever happen. And he turned heel with a guy that turned heel that we also didn't think was ever going to turn heel again, and that was The Rock. In the Triple H regime, we have seen 2 of the biggest baby faces in not only professional wrestling, but in the entertainment industry as a whole. John Cena and Dwayne The Rock Johnson go from 2 of the biggest baby faces in pro wrestling to 2 of the biggest heels in just a matter of 12 months. All because of Cody Rhodes, the new squeaky clean, shiny babyface. They call him a white meat babyface, ladies and gentlemen. Another one was CM Punk at Survivor Series 2023. That was a moment in which I thought I'd never see again. It had been almost 10 years to the date. I think it was 9 months or 9 years and 9 months, something like that. It was very close to the time that he had actually walked away from WWE in January of 2014, the day after the Royal Rumble. Discrepancies with Vince McMahon, discrepancies with Triple H. CM Punk took his ball and went home, and we never saw him again. I remember getting the notification on Bleacher Report that CM Punk had reportedly quit the WWE, and I couldn't believe it. I thought he was going to return a few weeks later when Paul Heyman used Cult of Personality to come out to promote the Brock Lesnar and Undertaker match in his hometown of Chicago, Illinois. That was a heel move, and it was done to perfection. I thought we might see it after CM Punk returned on Fox in 2019 as an analyst for WWE on Fox with Renee Young, Booker T, and Christian, as well as Paige. We didn't get it then, and then he returned to AEW, or he returned to pro wrestling in AEW in 2021, and that's when I was like, all right, the door is officially closed for a WWE return, but he's back in professional wrestling. And then he screwed that up. So we thought. CM Punk, after I think it was a little over 2 years, probably 2 years to the date in AEW, ended up getting fired by Tony Khan and company, had ruffled feathers with Kenny Omega, ruffled feathers with the Young Bucks, ruffled feathers with Tony Khan, and most undoubtedly ruffled feathers with Jack Perry, and I think we saw that in London. But CM Punk was portrayed as this guy who just doesn't get along with anybody. Triple H couldn't get along with him. Vince McMahon didn't get along with him. A lot of WWE talent didn't get along with him. He walked away, and us fans thought our hero's gone, and our hero was mistreated because that's what we heard on the Colt Cabana podcast, right? And now when he got fired from AEW, we thought, oh no, CM Punk, Phil Brooks is legitimately an asshole. This is what I thought when I read that again on Bleacher Report, getting the notification that AEW had fired and terminated the contract of Phil Brooks, aka CM Punk. I thought that CM Punk legitimately was the guy that Vince McMahon said that he was, the guy that Triple H said that he was. Just a weird cat, wasn't a good communicator. Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Tony Khan, all didn't get along with a CM Punk. Was he difficult to work with? That's what we thought. But then 3 months after getting fired from AEW, Survivor Series 2023, War Games, it was Cody Rhodes' team versus the Judgment Day with a returning Randy Orton. We're thinking it's in Chicago. CM Punk's a free agent. CM Punk is back in pro wrestling. Is this the moment he returns home to the WWE for the first time in 10 years? They were chanting his name like crazy all night. Randy Orton was advertised for his return for the first time in a year and a half. I think it was 18 months on the dot. Randy Orton's music hits, the place goes bananas. The CM Punk chants kind of simmer down because that's when we think, okay, it's probably not going to happen. Once again, we got our hopes up for something that we knew in the back of our heads wasn't really going to happen. We had thought for 10 years that every single year was a moment for CM Punk to return. This was probably the most prominent, but again, we're like, okay, we got to manage our expectations a little bit. Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and Seth freaking Rollins win War Games against the Judgment Day. We think that's how we're going home. We see the credits roll up. We see the vignettes. We see thanks for tuning in. Michael Cole says, good night from Chicago. And that's when we think it's going to end. We think the screen is going to fade to black. That's what I thought. I had my remote control. I was about to hit power on my TV to power it down. And then the most beautiful sound in the world happened that night in Chicago at the Allstate Arena. The static hits, cult of personality hits, and I thought I was on a cloud for about 3 minutes watching that entrance. I thought it was maybe a documentary post-show. I didn't think it was real life. I didn't think it was in the moment. I didn't think it was at Survivor Series until he actually came out. And I'm screaming holy shit at the top of my lungs, living with 3 girl roommates that all come into the room at the time thinking, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's right? CM Punk is back in the WWE. That was one of the more shocking moments in which I was like screaming holy shit again and people had to check on me. John Cena turning heel, CM Punk returning to the WWE. The third one, we have to go all the way back. These ones were more recent. Cena in 2025, Punk in late 2023. All in about a 14, 15-month period. The third one, we have to go all the way back to February of 2017. The Wayback Machine, 8 years ago. The Festival of Friendship between Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. I think this was probably one of the more funniest, one of the most compelling, one of the most long-term storytelling, and one of the most longest segments I think we've ever had in the WWE. That took up like 20, 25 minutes, probably more. It had multiple commercial breaks. They were really, really dragging it on, letting it cook between Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. Kevin Owens was the Universal Champion at the time. Chris Jericho was kind of his lackey, but they were best friends, even though you knew Kevin Owens was kind of using Chris Jericho. But Chris Jericho's goofy heel character that he was playing at the time made it so good. He got things over like the list of Jericho, the gift of Jericho. Drink it in, man. He got over it by saying the term it. The click of the pen he got over. He got everything that he said. He was so confident he got over in 2017 and late 2016 of that run. But the Festival of Friendship took place at the very end of the 6, 7, 8 month storyline between Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho being best friends. And Jericho wanted to celebrate his best friend in Las Vegas, Nevada, of all places. Chris Jericho came out. He had showgirls come out. He put on a whole charade. He was wearing a top hat. He's wearing 3 scarves like he always does. Chris Jericho did so much ridiculous shit in that segment. I can't even remember it all. There was, a coming to Jesus portrait of like Cain and Abel or Adam and Eve, but it was Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens. There were multiple sculptures that he had out in the ring. Kevin Owens is just kind of like a simple-mannered guy. He doesn't really give a shit about any of that stuff. Jericho's character did. Chris Jericho then went on to say, despite everything that they've gone through and everything that Jericho had given him that night materialistically, that it was some of the best work that he did in his career, and it was because of Kevin Owens. It was a very wholesome moment after like 25, 30 minutes into that segment. Kevin Owens then gifts Chris Jericho his one and only gift of the night. Chris Jericho opens up the box and says, "A new list," and everybody just pops because obviously everybody loves the list. The list of Jericho might be one of the greatest gimmicks that he ever had. He picks up the list, he looks down at the list, and he says, "How come my name's on this?" And that's when you knew, oh no, and then this is what I'm saying at my parents' house watching this on screen as a senior in high school. Oh no. It's the list of KO, and Kevin Owens, who's already heel, turns even healer, as Dominic Mysterio used to do back in the day. He turned healer. Kevin Owens turning on Chris Jericho, smashing his face into the Jeritron 6000, and that was the end of that partnership. That was probably one of the most devastating times of my high school career watching WWE. So those are the three most shocking moments. I'm curious to hear your guys' most shocking moments in watching professional wrestling. It was literally the Red Wedding and the Festival of Friendship. It was CM Punk returning to the WWE for the first time in 10 years, and it was John Cena doing the unthinkable, turning heel for the first time as John Cena. Let's talk about what we have moving forward on the topic of John Cena. He's going to take on Randy Orton at Backlash. We all know this. Are we going to see, in my opinion, I think this is going to be a one-off match. I think we're going to see John Cena, the 17-time WWE champion, taking on the 14-time WWE champion Randy Orton in their final match. A lot of history there, like we've talked about. Hell in a Cell matches, Iron Man matches, steel cage matches, I Quit matches. The list goes on and on and on. John Cena and Randy Orton took the PG era by storm in the mid to late 2000s. I think this is going to be a moment where Randy Orton is going to face a heel John Cena for the final time in their illustrious careers in his hometown of St. Louis, Missouri, where he's going to be the mega babyface. John Cena is going to be the mega heel. Are we going to see an awesome RKO? Are we going to see one of the most chaotic and beautiful RKOs that we've ever seen? Can John Cena and Randy Orton pull off the greatest RKO of all time? Let's run down the list of some of the greatest RKOs of all time. We've seen Rey Mysterio get RKO'd pretty cool. We've seen Carmelo Hayes get RKO'd in a pretty cool way. We've seen Evan Bourne go for Airborne, turned into an air RKO, which is arguably the greatest RKO we've ever seen. Seth Rollins took arguably the greatest RKO we've ever seen after going for the curb stomp, and Randy Orton turning it into a spectacular RKO at WrestleMania 31 in Santa Clara, California. We've seen a lot of great RKOs over the years. Can John Cena and Randy Orton pull off the greatest RKO of all time? I'd like to see it. I don't know. On the topic of Backlash, let's fast forward here. We saw Gunther, the former World Heavyweight Champion, after losing to Jey Uso at WrestleMania, take out his frustrations on the commentary team, which is the most heel thing that you could do. I remember when Brock Lesnar, after WrestleMania 31, the heist of the century, when Seth Rollins cashed in and beat him and Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania 31, Brock Lesnar had one of the most epic moments in Raw after WrestleMania history. He took out the entire commentary team, and he did it with one move. He lifted the table and took out Booker T and JBL, and they were just sitting underneath the table. Michael Cole gets F5'd in the ring. Then Brock Lesnar gets suspended by Stephanie McMahon, and that's how you write him off TV. But it was an awesome moment. He was as over as he's ever been in his second run in WWE. That turned him from a heel to a babyface instantly. Gunther taking out Michael Cole and Pat McAfee was not really that awesome. I mean, it was really cool to see all of Pat McAfee's co-hosts from the Pat McAfee show jump the barricade, and it looked like security wanted to get involved because their friend Pat McAfee was getting choked to sleep by Gunther. Are we going to see Gunther versus Pat McAfee at Backlash or at a future pay-per-view? Why is this the way that WWE wants to book? Maybe Pat McAfee wants to compete in a match. Maybe Gunther just didn't have a storyline after losing the World Heavyweight Championship to Jey Uso, though I feel like a rematch is looming. Why is Gunther versus Pat McAfee on WWE's radar? Pat McAfee, we know for a fact, can wrestle, and he can wrestle very, very, very well. We saw him beat Austin Theory at WrestleMania. We've seen him feud with Adam Cole in NXT. We've seen him face the chairman of the board, Vince McMahon, at WrestleMania. We've seen him take a stunner at WrestleMania, arguably one of the greatest stunners of all time, might I add. I could get on board for Pat McAfee versus Gunther. I just don't understand why that's the creative way that they're going about this. Pat McAfee is as jacked as he's ever been. He's on a lot of different supplements. I don't know if he's a test dummy for somebody out there, but he's on a lot of shit right now. Pat McAfee has the look right now to take on a Gunther. Does this elevate Gunther? I don't think so. Maybe, just maybe, Pat McAfee is going to introduce a new superstar, maybe a returning superstar to take on Gunther. Who's in Pat McAfee's Rolodex of his network? Let's see. The Rock, CM Punk, John Cena, Michael Cole. I don't think it's going to be any of those names. I think it might be the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. Why not? I keep saying Brock Lesnar's got to come back. He's got a feud with Braun Breaker. He's got a feud with Paul Heyman. He's got a feud with CM Punk maybe again. What if he feuds with Gunther, the match that we thought we were going to see at WrestleMania 39 before Vince McMahon literally gave us something that nobody wanted in Brock Lesnar versus Omos? Maybe we see Brock Lesnar versus Gunther now. I don't know where they're going with this Gunther versus Pat McAfee stuff, but it should be interesting to see. If it's going to happen at Backlash, we got a pretty interesting Backlash card if they book it the way I think they're going to book it. John Cena versus Randy Orton. CM Punk and Roman Reigns versus Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins. Pat McAfee versus Gunther. I don't know who Jey Uso is going to defend the World Heavyweight Championship against. Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria for the Intercontinental Championship. There's a lot of good matches at Backlash. Backlash could be a very A-plus PLE if booked right. But I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with Pat McAfee and Gunther moving forward. Talk about shocking moments. Pat McAfee versus Gunther, as the kids say, was not on my bingo card this year. Another thing I want to talk about what presumably is going to be the main event at Backlash, John Cena versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. We have a 17-time champion versus a 14-time world champion. I talked about it yesterday that John Cena and his 17 title reigns might not ever be defeated because of the way that booking is presented now. Champions don't really lose their titles all that often. We're back in John Cena's heyday. They played hot potato with the World Heavyweight Championship and the WWE Championship. Let's just be honest. And John Cena's heyday was also Randy Orton's heyday, and that's why he has 14 world titles, possibly 15th in 2025. I don't think we're ever going to see it again. It's an impressive accomplishment. A lot of people in the comments say that Roman Reigns' 1,316 days is more impressive than John Cena's 17 championships, and I could agree with that. I'm not saying I do. I could agree with that. You're not wrong. You're not right, but you're not wrong. What do you guys think? Is John Cena's 17-time... Is John Cena's 17 WWE championships more impressive than Roman Reigns' 1,316 days as WWE champion? It could be. Again, it could not be. I don't know. I think the current day of being champion for as many days as you can is going to be kind of equivalent to how many championships you can win. Because, like, you could say John Cena is the 17-time world champion. That just means he's lost the title 16 times. Roman Reigns was champion for nearly 4.5 years. I don't think we'll ever see that again. Even in today's WWE. I think even in today's WWE, you can't tell a story like that. Roman Reigns had a reign better than everyone but three. Bruno Sammartino, Bob Backlund, Hulk Hogan. Those are the only three guys that had more days as champion, more consecutive days as champion than Roman Reigns. And that was back in an era where they didn't have TV every week. They didn't have all these different components that you have today. Roman Reigns in the modern day is the greatest champion that ever lived. So who is the GOAT, Roman Reigns or John Cena? What's more impressive, 17 world championship reigns or one reign that lasted 4.5 years? I'll let you guys decide that, because that is very compelling. I definitely wanted to discuss that topic, 17-time champion or a 1,316 reign, because it's nearly the most impressive feat that we've seen of all time. We saw at WrestleMania 40 him walk in with a 4.5-year title reign. A year later, we see John Cena walk out as the 17-time champion. It's impressive. Seth Rollins is now partnered with Paul Heyman. I do want to get into this because another debate I want to get into with Seth Rollins is that he was able to pull off the heist of the century, not just at WrestleMania 31, but at WrestleMania 41, 10 years later. And who was most affected by both of those? Roman Reigns. First, it was the big dog getting stomped into the mat, losing at WrestleMania 31 as Seth Rollins cashed in his Money in the Bank contract to main event WrestleMania as the champ. And one was as the tribal chief, where Seth Rollins was curb stomping Roman Reigns' head into the mat again, not taking a championship, but taking his manager, his wise man, Paul Heyman. What was more of a heist in your guys' mind? What was the real heist of the century? Seth Rollins cashing in at WrestleMania 31 or Seth Rollins buying into Paul Heyman at WrestleMania 41? That's something I want to debate. So let those two sink in. John Cena or Roman Reigns, the greatest of all time. Seth Rollins' greatest moment, WrestleMania 31 or WrestleMania 41. Think on it. I'll be back tomorrow.